Chuck. Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, good man. Thanks for having me on the show. Good to
Thank
be
you
here.
very much for joining us. We're delighted to have you. We're starting films by asking our contributors just to introduce themselves and tell us a bit about themselves. So would you mind doing that, please?
Yeah, I am Chuck Mambo, the gnarliest wrestler in the world. I'm one half of ETM with TK Cooper. Right now, I am basically unemployed and spend most of my time arguing with racists on Twitter.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear about the unemployment, but thank you for the work you are doing against the racists on Twitter.
with,
Anyway,
yeah.
gnarliest. What does that mean? Can you tell us more about that, please?
To be honest with you, I hit a point where I thought, well, I'm definitely not the most athletic, and I'm not really the most technically sound, but maybe I could be the gnarliest, because a lot of my moves, I guess, just involve kind of recklessly throwing my weight around rather than any particular prowess or skill.
Well, there's prowess and skill to that. I think you gnarl very well.
Thank you. But yeah, it's one of those things where like you want to have like a little moniker or a handle or something, and that one just kind of, I think I said it to a ring announcer once, and I kind of liked it. But then I think by the time we come back, it will have been like probably at least 6 months off of wrestling or something. So maybe I should take that time to find something a bit a bit more authentic.
I'm still thinking about the word gnarly.
It's a good word. It's a good word.
Yeah. So yeah, could you describe for our audience a bit more about what wrestling is to you and how you wrestle? I guess you've really clued us into a sense that you feel like you maybe have a different style with this term gnarliest.
Yeah. So I never really have a particularly sound explanation of what wrestling is for me, really, other than I just think it's like the fucking best thing in the world. Is like so exciting, and there's a not always humor, but like there's a certain atmosphere to watching it for me that like everybody knows now that it's not real or whatever, but when you're watching it and all the falsies are going on in the back end and all the moves, just all the crowd and like all the people in the ring kind of are riding like the same energy of just being like, oh, shit, 1, 2, but like, so it can be like that, and it feels like real in that moment. But then in another match, it could be like Orange Cassidy doing his like fake kicks, and everyone still reacts with like, and like, so I don't know really what it is, but just something about that way of like riding the energy of a room, and then that makes the performance all the better, and then the performance makes the crowd better. That I think that's definitely one. In fact, I think there's this little like 10-minute mini documentary that WWE did on Chris Hero. I think when he went back there a couple of years ago, and he describes it as something like the perfect balance of energy, or something like that. But I just think it's this really nice. Well, when it's at its best, anyway, not always. There's this really nice connection, I guess, with the crowd, and the crowd with each other, and the wrestlers with the crowd, and the wrestlers with each other. So yeah, just for me, I think it's like the coolest entertainment. My girlfriends are like really big art fan. I keep on telling her that it's the purest art form, and it's the only pure art form. She gets really pissed off. But sometimes I say it as a joke, but sometimes I think I'm right. Like because it's just so free and creative and collaborative, and well, I just love it. Sorry, that was a rambling answer.
Oh, it's a brilliant answer. It's a really brilliant answer. And I guess, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I want to make these films, is that we think of art and we often think of theatre and performance in very boring post-20th century terms. Everyone has to be quiet. The audience is very quiet and respectful and pretends they're not there. And wrestling for me is absolutely what performance used to be like before we got so stupid about having to behave ourselves in an audience. That story you're telling is about riding the energy of the audience. I mean, actors think they do that too, but often with an audience who are totally silent and not very generous and not very vocally involved. Whereas
that must be hard.
you're feeding off this incredible network of sounds and shouting and cheering and booing and playing with it. You guys are kind of, it's almost like music. They're the audience of the keyboard that you guys get to play with.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I mean, I'd say probably I found it easiest for like more of my kind of comical wrestling shtick than I'm getting there with like proper wrestling stuff, being able to kind of really not manipulate in a malicious way, but like be able to like, I know that if I do this, it will do this to the audience type thing, and just like play around with it. And the audience, well, like 99% of the time, just get so on board, and it's like a real blessing, I think, as a I guess performer to have such like a enthusiastic crowd. But then the other day, my friend Eddie was saying about there's pretty much no other sport. I watched some old NBA final the other day, and like the home team are like doing everything they can to put off the Bulls, but the Bulls still win. But like wrestling, the audience's interaction can actually change the outcome of the match, or maybe not the outcome very often, but like if the audience boo enough to distract the bad guy, then he will turn and face them and then turn around and eat like a stunner or whatever. Like, so I think I guess that makes it quite unique from like a viewing perspective, that you can actually have an effect on the performance. Well, I guess there must be a lot of theatre like that as well, actually, where it intentionally interacts.
There is, but traditionally, we've been trained not to be like that, I guess. Whereas wrestling just does it by default, and that's what I reckon that's what theatre used to be like, much more dynamic and exciting, and actors responding to audience and vice versa.
Yeah.
So Chuck, do you mind telling us a bit about what it's like to be in the ring when you've got, you must be hyper focused on your opponent and on the match, but also you're telling us on the audience. Like, that's a lot of things for your brain to be processing and your body to be processing all at once.
It is quite a lot to process, I think. Yeah. The real like lucky thing is the adrenaline. So you can take these crazy moves and stuff and land right on your bonds. Obviously you don't want to land on your head, but like if you do, not normally it's just like the adrenaline rides you through. So there's like a definite high, which I guess is like part nerves, part the excitement of like doing your dream job, and part like I say, the energy from everybody else. And then it's a funny one, really, because sometimes you've got so much. Definitely in the past, I've had so much planned in my head that I'm going to the ring trying to remember what the hell happens in the middle, and then you don't really have like that much fun, because even when you're doing the first bit, you're trying to remember the next bit or whatever. But just recently, just before the lockdown happened, actually, I was lucky. I got like 2 weekends of wrestling when I'd had this like. I was just walking along, and I don't know what happened really. I just learned to relax. So then some of the matches I had in the last 2 weekends, just before we went out, people would be like, "Have you got the match?" And I was like, I think I have the match, but like whatever. Like, and that was really a joy, because like just knowing that you have something planned which the fans will enjoy, but you can, if you forget it or whatever, you can get there. You just need to sort of work and not let the fans know that you don't know what you're doing. And then that keeps it all flowing, and it's just, I'm not explaining it very well, because I'm not talking about like being lazy. I'm just talking about like being able to actually relax and enjoy it, and that made the performance 100 times better, I think, because you're not rushing anything and you're not stumbling. You're just actually in the moment and being able to enjoy it, and kind of feel a bit of the excitement that you feel when you're watching it, like, oh, here it comes, this move now, and like actually like take a shot and then listen to the crowd go boo, and then give a shot and listen to it. So yeah, it's a lot of different things, a lot of different times. I think by the time we come back, I could have gone back round and I'll just be completely nervous. But it's just, so exciting, and then you kind of take all of that energy in there, and then pain is like very rarely a big part of it, I find. Like, and if it is, it's normally like something little and stupid that you didn't expect. And then one thing as well, I think, when you're in there with people that you really respect and stuff, you want to make sure that you're always listening to them and like show it. Well, I mean, you should respect everybody, but there's always people that you respect more. And you want to like, sometimes that's more nerve-wracking than the match or something. You're like, oh, I really want them to like enjoy it. But yeah, definitely the last couple of years, I think everyone's been so welcoming and cool that even the people that are like quite a bit higher up than you and stuff, and that you really want to impress or whatever, like tend to put you at ease and just enjoy it. And I don't really know what I'm saying, sorry. But I just think it's like a really nice way of playing. Cara Noir actually referred to it as playing, and I think that's a nice way of thinking of it.
Yeah, it totally is. And again, as someone who works with theatre a lot, I feel like we've completely lost touch with that meaning with the word play. Like you go and see a play, a play should be playing. That's what the word means. It's a game.
Yeah, right.
So we think of it again as there's lots of kind of rules we all have to obey.
Yeah.
Gaming, playing, and wrestling are very much similar things as far as I can see. I'm wondering if I got to see you in one of those last matches where you felt super relaxed, because I saw you a year and a half ago at Wrestling Seoul, and then I saw you at Wrestling Resurgence, which is the last thing I saw before lockdown.
Oh, bummer.
So
was that us against the Dazzlers? Sorry, the Bangor Knights.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually quite tough because I think Daryl got there about 10 or 15 minutes before we were on. So that was one of those ones that there was a little bit like Daryl trained me, so like we're all really close with each other. So actually, yeah, that was kind of one of those ones where you're like, I think a few years ago this would have really stressed me out, but this time it's just a little bit stressing me out. But obviously, you're in some pretty capable hands with like Daryl Allen and RJ Singh. They're like pretty much as safe hands as you could be in. So yeah, that was something that was a little bit stressful, but mostly enjoyable. And again, it's that thing like, I think what you were saying about a play being this rigid structure, like wrestling isn't like that. Like even if you are nervous, once you get into the ring, the fans are like dueling chants and stuff, and there's just so many things, so much like positive energy being like directed at you, or sometimes negative, but you know, like that you can react with. And I think that stops it being, I think it would be a play if you just went out there and didn't react with the audience and just did your moves in the order that you said you would or whatever. But it becomes like wrestling when you're reacting with the audience and improvising and whatever, you know, punching each other and
and you talk about kind of comical wrestling and positive energy, and I definitely think of you as someone, as a wrestler, who brings a lot of positive energy, and I'm getting a lot of that right now from you. But could you tell us a bit more about how that works? I guess the last film we made with a wrestler for the series was with a Canadian wrestler called RJ City, and he was saying how most people's ideas is you know, this super aggressive man. And I guess I'm interested in, you know, how your very upbeat approach, how does that fit into a world which often can feel like it is built around aggression and contest and competition?
Yeah. So growing up, like, I did obviously love The Rock and stuff, but like my favorite stuff was like Mankind with like Mr. Socko, or like when he'd be Dude Love, or when he'd do like oh god, I'm gonna have to
Lost you.
Yes, I'm getting a low battery here. I'm just gonna have to plug you in. So yeah, I always love like you know, the badasses like Stone Cold and stuff like that. But a lot of my favorite things was like Scotty 2 Hotty doing the worm, or like this, like, I think I love the backstage segments as much or more than I love a lot of the in-ring stuff. So it always to me seemed like kind of like a cartoony world more than a fight replication. And I think like in the last sort of 5 years, I've come to appreciate a lot more the sort of combat sport side of it, and because that is awesome as well. And I've kind of focused more on that. depending where I'm wrestling, but like sometimes, like if I'm wrestling at like a fight club or something like, or Riptide even, really, like trying to be like a fiery underdog who's like, he is a nice guy, but like, this is a big chance to actually prove yourself as a wrestler type thing. And I think early on, because I was always enjoyed sort of the fun, upbeat stuff, I kind of pigeonholed myself a bit, and it was in a bit of a transitionary, like, I think it had moved. I hadn't really kept my finger on the pulse, but I think British wrestling had moved to more of a like more is more style. But there was still a school of thought of like less is more and get your character over and the character's what matters. So I kind of had this really hokey surfer character that I was like, oh yeah, everything ties into me being a surfer character. And I like kind of based myself half off Bill and Ted and half off of the Big Lebowski or whatever. And oh no, who was the other two? You know, Little Nicky, those guys that end up in hell? I think they're like the brothers, and it's like they went straight to hell and they've never been happier, and they're just like headbanging in hell. So I always thought like those larger than life characters. I know everyone always says like larger than life characters, but like the character was, well, that it didn't like have to be a fighter, especially because when you're training and stuff, there's so many people that just want to be really good fighters that. I don't know. But then, yeah, definitely. I guess, I mean, it started before this, but a real catalyst for me was wrestling Chris Brooks at Riptide, and he apparently said to his carload on the way down, like, "Oh, I'm going to get some fire out of Mambo today. I'm going to piss him off." And they were like, "No, you're not." And he just slapped me in the face, like right at the start of the match, like so hard. And it honestly wasn't like a "fuck you, Chris," but it was just like a, okay, so that's the level we're playing at today. And then like you up your aggression, and definitely, yeah, like looking back at a lot of other wrestling that I've started to watch over the last couple of years, like I can definitely see the appeal of both styles, you know. But I think that's what's cool about it. Like over a weekend, you could go to like Fight Club on Friday, and it's like a crazy, athletic, like aggressive wrestling match. And then the next day, maybe it's like me and TK against the Anti-Fun Police, where it's like really good wrestling, but like Santos will do some funny stuff, and we get to like just riff with each other and improvise and have fun. And then on Sunday, I don't know, it's like a Royal Rumble or whatever. And so you get like over one weekend, you can get so much like creative satisfaction in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And then just to finish, like I don't really watch a lot of UFC or anything like that, but like definitely like Matt Riddle, for instance, is like totally nice outside of the ring all the time, and then like could still fuck you up in a fight or whatever. I try to think of it as like for me, it's never like, oh, I could still fuck you up in a fight, but it's like I want to be the best wrestler, so I take it more as like a sporting contest than a fight type thing for within the realm of wrestling.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. But how does the sporting contest then fit into the fact that you're also trying to react with the audience and tell them a story and be responsive and improvise around what they're doing?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. That is a tricky one. I tend to find that like if like I don't know if this will make sense on the camera. If like over here is being purely there to react to the audience, and like over here is being purely to win the sports contest, I'm normally like either a little bit too far this way or like a little bit too far that way. And it changes. Like if you're on the summer camps, there's much less of a pretense of it being a real fight, you know? Like you still have to respect their intelligence and like make things look real and try and pin them, you know? But like it's way closer to a pantomime a lot of the time. Whereas, yeah, like a Progress or a Fight Club or something, then you probably try to make it a bit more real. But like I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest, because some of the like best matches that you watch, there's so much crowd interaction, and you think, well, if you were fighting for money, I maybe you would, because I mean the crowd gives me a buzz, so I guess if it was a real fight that would help. But yeah, I don't know, I still kind of am trying to figure it out, because first and foremost has to be fun for the audience. Or at least, you know, entertaining, maybe not fun, maybe like they're watching you get your ass kicked the whole time and they're supposed to be sad about that, then, but like something engaging for the audience. But I think over time I've learned ways to engage the audience without it being like, often like you like get the audience clapping and you're stamping your feet and stuff. Like it doesn't have to be that to be reacting to the audience. It can be like you've taken this horrible move and you've just kicked out, and like you're not trying to look at the audience. You're like just trying to this, but you catch someone's eye, and then you kind of feel this connection, and then you can sometimes see that like spread across the crowd type thing. So it's sometimes we call it a bit like magic-y smoke and mirrors, like you're doing one thing whilst you tell them that you're trying to present it as something else, So your neck is hurt, but really you're getting sympathy from them trying to make eye contact without looking like you're trying to make eye contact.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Thank you, Chuck. This has been really helpful thinking about where you sit in the atmosphere of a show, and that idea of riding the energy of the crowd. I think is really helpful, and thinking about I love that sitting between the real fight or the responding to.
Oh my god! Where you often I'm just the wrong side for the right occasion. Like I'll have been too camp show on Friday, and then I'm too serious on Saturday. But sometimes you hit the sweet spot, and it's great.
Yeah, and I guess each match is a way of testing and learning and kind of working out where to position yourself each time. And each match needs you to change a little bit anyway as you discover what that particular show and audience needs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Like, so even things like the lights being on or the lights being off can affect it a bit. And if you're in a storyline with this person and where you are in the storyline, or if it's just like a new crowd or all these kinds of things, I think have an effect on it. So it can be hard because like you're in a serious match on Friday. I keep going to this weekend example. So Friday, and you were a little bit too playful. So then the next day you try to make up for it by being more serious, but that one's like a family friendly show where they need you to be more fun. So it can be a bit confusing. Like you just get a little bit disoriented. But I did find once you're doing it like 2 or 3 times a week, it becomes a little bit easier, I think, to gauge it and read it and stuff.
Yeah. Chuck, we're kind of moving towards the end of the conversation now, and while we've been talking, because I'm a boring historian, I've been checking the history of the word gnarly. So this is
please enlighten me, because
so I can't.
There's nothing bad.
It's interestingly. Let's see what you think. But it's originally connected to wood, which has kind of warped and got into knots. So it could mean ugly. I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm also very happy to tell you that in the 60s it apparently entered surfing culture, and it became a way of saying hot, beautiful. So I guess it's a bit like the word bad meaning good.
Well, yeah, that works for me. I'm an ugly, bent out of shape, hot, beautiful piece of wood.
You learn something new every day.
Thank you for that. That is, I'll take that. You know what? I think I took it from when you used to watch like Extreme Sports Channel or whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, we took some gnarly bumps, dude." Like, okay. There used to be this show, Black and Blue Thrills and Spills. It was just like all the worst fools from Norway.
Is there anything more I should ask you before we wrap up? Anything more you want to tell us about the world of wrestling and yourself in it?
Nothing majorly comes to mind, to be honest. Obviously, like to say thank you to the fans that are always there, because sometimes we'd say like, obviously we love wrestling and we go out and like do it every weekend, but there's some fans that I'd say are maybe even at more wrestling shows than I am, and they have to actually pay to be there. So thank you for the constant support, even over like lockdown and stuff. Everyone who's just been supportive with like memories on Twitter or whatever, it's all really nice. So thanks.
Yeah, it's an amazing community. It's been fascinating kind of coming along shows recently and seeing what that community is like, and also how it changes from company to company. It's been really interesting.
Yeah. So you said you've been watching it for about a year now?
Year and a half I've been going to live shows. Yeah, I was watching it on telly as a kid, and then sort of to it as a live thing. So Soul Wrestling and A Wrestling Resurgence are the 2 main ones I've seen. interpretation.
they're fantastic, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. Yeah. Thank you so much, Chuck. It's been really fascinating.
Oh no, thank you, man. It's been a blast. Yeah, if you ever have space on the film again, then I'd love to be back.
We'd love to have you back. Yeah. Cheers.
Sweet, man. Thank you. Hey.